All right, your attention, please. Your attention, please. Your attention, please. Now, on the Oreo itself, it has a triple cross. So on one side you have a triple cross. So on this side, it's a triple cross. Um, all of the writing that you see around it is Babylonian. I'm going to be teaching about that. So I thought I'd start it off by dropping this hammer now. All of the prescriptions you see around the cookie itself is Babylonian um, signature. It's used for devil worship because the food itself, and this is why you have look. I like coffee. I do. I'm not going to be a hypocrite. I do like coffee. I have to be careful because for me it's a spike. I like the spike, but it's a spike for my blood pressure. Reason why I handle it well because I eat other things that are purely a blood pressure reducing. So, and I don't have high blood pressure as I once did. I've controlled that by eating a lot of natural stuff. Sister Sona, we had a conversation a few weeks back. Now, this thing here is its whole design is to make you eat and consume a Babylonian curse that works within your body. A lot of the foods that's out there now are like that. Now, there are foods you eat here that you can't sell over in Europe. America is known for a place that consume foods that have spells. You will never, and here's the other thing about the foods you have here, there is more destructive ingredients in them than there is in Europe. You can't pass them. That's why there's certain types of food that will, if you sent it over to America, to Europe, and they open it up, they destroy it. They won't even allow it to be in. Because they know the contents of what's in it. Not that they are so spiritual, it has nothing to do with that. So keep it real and let's not be silly now. It's about this. It's about control. The American system is worked by sick and ailing people. The American system works by that. Even the cream that's inside of this, it's got fatty tissues and all manner of bacteria. And by the way, when you take the cream and you look at it, it's alive. It's not dead bacteria. It's a living bacteria. Put it under the mic. It's all moving. So I wanted to make sure that I brought that point home because and Brian was right in regards to that. It is used for worship and it is used to keep people spellbound. That's the whole purpose behind it. So I wanted to bring it up. So those of you who are Oreo lovers, stop being a lover now. So, yes, ma'am.
Oh, I was gonna say the same thing Brian said. I actually ran across a TikTok video on that like a few weeks ago.
Okay.
And my spirit was vexed. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, wow, that's crazy. But then I was like, people kind of like are just paranoid. But then something, my spirit would not let that go. And then I read something about Breyer's ice cream too. I will send out the video so y'all can see. But there was warning people about that brand of ice cream too. About they're using like human flesh to like mix in the ice cream. So like you're eating like human and stuff. If y'all eat ice cream.
Pastor, add on what she said.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I stopped and I thought Brian might be the only ice cream that may not have it, but the ice cream that we consume has ingredients contain animal food. It's called castor. And I said, what? Beaver poop. and they actually put that in ice cream. And so I thought Bride might be guilty, but now she tell me this. So really, basically, no ice cream is good.
Yes, go ahead.
They also say that the Oreos have a marijuana strain in it.
Yeah.
That's the secret ingredient.
Yeah. The marijuana is not a destructive point, however. Because people tend to think that marijuana is bad for you. It isn't. It's how it's used. It was used as medicine. You know, when I was over in the islands many years ago, my cousins wanted to play a joke on me, so they gave me marijuana tea. But the devils made me walk home by myself. And I nearly killed myself because I was walking in the road and I was as high as a kite. And they make it just like tea, you put milk in it and all the rest of it. But after you've had it, you're meant to sleep. You're not meant to go walking around. And I was walking around at night, and where I was visiting at the time, they had bauxite trucks that zoomed up and down this particular area. It's a place called Santa Cruz. It was a Spanish town area. And I was walking in the road, and it was the grace of God that made me make a few steps to the left, and then the truck, which I didn't see, zoomed by, and it didn't have any lights. So again, you know, you just have to use wisdom. But marijuana tea is medicinal. It's just that they use it to get high on it all the time. And I saw pink and blue elephants and tigers, you know, pop in balloons. I saw everything. But the point that I wanted to get to, man, was this. This is a book. This is a very old copy. It's maybe 35, maybe 40 years old. This copy is that. Maybe 35 years old to be exact. It's called The Two Babylons. You can still get it. They've got more updated copy. I like this copy. I've always had it. Because they haven't taken out any of the strength of the information. The Two Babylons. I have another book which I was trying to look for, and it was running me behind time. It actually has spells, a book of spells, and in it has the Oreo. Get back to that. It shows the Oreo. It is one of the products that is pushed, and when they have spells, each and every individual is given one. And watch this. This is the bit that is going to blow you away. The spell of this is the spell to overcome you. To overcome you as black people. That's why this is named after you. And when they eat it, the whole purpose is the consumption of you. It's the destruction of you. I was really getting upset because I put it down, and I don't know what you know. My place it is organized, is it not, sir?
Yes, sir.
Now, if you fall asleep with me,
Oh no, never.
I will absolutely jump. You're reading the scriptures. I will get so upset with you. Let me tell it now. Okay, so let me say it now. So this book here, if you haven't got it, try and get it. Okay, it's called The Two Babylons. This particular book itself is a book that I wanted to make. This is a book. Do you want to talk about it?
That is an incredible book. It has everything. And the thing about it is, it's old. You know, the same book that he's holding in his hand right now, you can't get that book for less than $14,000. Because what they do is anytime there's something out that's valuable, they always raise up the price ridiculously.
It's called The Lost Tribes, a Myth. And it breaks down everything about all of the tribes. Even many of the names of the tribes that are over in Africa right now, the 12 tribes are over there right now because they're scattered into different African tribal groups. And those particular had the 12 tribes there. So you'll be surprised how far and wide our people are. Those are the ones that never left, was never taken, never sent, never part of the diaspora. But this book goes back, this book is X amount of 100 years old. But I found a source that when I found the book, they would rewrap the book for me. So it has all the original print and everything else, all the pages, no darkened pages, because some of the darkened pages that they have, you'll buy the book, and when you get it, some of the information, they blacken the page so you don't get to read who you are and what it's all about. But this book is untouched, unschemed. It goes from all the way back to the Yemen, to the Phoenician Jews, and so on. And I saw somebody's hand. Her hand. Go ahead. Sorry?
The author of the book?
I'll leave it here. You can take a look at it afterwards, ma'am, and so on. But it's Maurice Epstein, if you want the name. Now, go ahead, sir.
I was just going to say real quick, so like when Dr. Thompson recommends a book, if you can't get it right away, because as soon as they find out that we are buying the book, the price is going to escalate.
So this particular book does a lot of breakdowns, and can someone tell me, do you know what the term Phoenician Jew means? Google it if you want, but tell me what it means. I want to see if you... Anyone? And also, do bear this in mind. When you hear me use terms like Hebrews are not Israelites, that's true. Everybody think everyone that's a Hebrew is Israelite. That's not true. Hebrews are one group, but Hebrew Israelite is an exclusive group. And that's where we come from. Because remember, Esau is Hebrew. Ishmael is Hebrew. See? So if you say Hebrews is what everybody is, it's not true. Well, who's got the answer for me? I need to Google. I don't guess what. So I need facts. Can you button that up for me, please?
I got a meaning.
Can you button this up for me, please? What you got?
I got it said where the Phoenician Jews come from, because the Jewish holotypes 7 and 8 are not represented in the Phoenician population. We conclude.
What does the word Phoenician mean? That's what I want. That's what I want, nothing else.
Okay, people descended from ancient Ethiopia.
That's not what it means.
Okay.
That's just a modernistic term to, but it's not what it means. Anybody else?
I got it.
Mm-hmm.
It means outside exile.
Yes, that's what it means. An outcast or exile. When you hear the term Phoenician Jew, that's what we are. We are exiled. Right now, those of you in America and the Caribbean, you are Phoenician Jews. You are exiled. You are outcasts. When you hear the Caucasian fake Jew use that expression, they use it thinking it buys them merit. Buys them no merit. No merit whatsoever. But what are they cast out from? They're in our land. They don't normally are cast out. They normally run. They ran from Spain. They ran into Portugal. They ran out of Portugal. They ran into Holland. And they stayed within the Dutch lands for many, many years, which many of them still are. They ran into Belgium. This is what they do. They run and take over spaces. Yes, sir.
So would they be the real Phoenician Jew?
Who?
The other nations?
Them, no. No, we are. You are. You're a Phoenician. Because you are outside of your country. You're being cast out. Your descendants from South America. You see, and they're being kept down. If you jumped on your hobby horse now and decided, I'm going to go over there, take my claim, they'd laugh you silly. You see, because you're an outcast, you're exiled. So am I. I'm the same as you. Can't? That makes sense, everybody?
Yes, it does.
All right, and right. Any points that anyone would like to raise at this time before we get into the teaching? Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Pastor, you're asking online for the names of the books and the authors, please.
Yes. All right. The names of the books. This particular book, it is called The Lost Tribe, a Myth. One momento, por favor. Got it?
Yes. The author, can you see the author's name? I can't make up.
Yeah, it's right there. It's something Epstein I mentioned. Morris Epstein. That's it. All right. So it's and Alan H. Goodby, and Morris Epstein. All right.
Thank you.
And the other one. This one is Reverend Alexander Hislop, Two Babylons. This book has been around since 1920.
His last name again? Alexander?
Hislop. Yeah, Hislop. All right. Yeah, yes?
I just want to mention on kind of on topic, but there's this movie on Netflix that's called They Call Tyrone, or They Clone Tyrone, and it gives me a reminder of how we were saying the byproducts are I guess take over us.
Yeah.
And in the show or in the movie, they show how they use in this low economy neighborhoods, they'll use the beauty salon, the soda, like the sodas that we choose,
right.
The food that we choose, as the way how they put and take control of us.
Yes, remember that all of the foods that are sold in corner stores are a particular type. The corner store, the Arab corner store, as you call them here, the corner store where I'm from, they were run by Pakistani groups of people, Persians basically. And the food, by the way, how's these apples? They have a particular type of food that they want the corner store to sell. Whether it be liquor, pop, chips, whatever, it's a particular type. That type, you won't get that at, what's one of your top supermarkets here? Kroger. You will not get it at Kroger. It will never ever be sold at Kroger. Kroger has a ban on certain things because Kroger's prices are set up for a particular price gap. And only a particular group of people will shop there. You see? A lot of our people won't shop there. They'll still shop at HEB. And they'll just shop, not realizing you can shop at HEB, but you must take a minute and read what you're buying. Stop just throwing it in the silly cart. Pick it up, take a minute, read. And you notice, when you stop and you read, even the people who fill the shelves, they look at you strange, like, what are you looking for? But they know. All right. Okay, let's, any other points anyone else would like to share? Oh, go ahead. Yes, sir, go ahead.
Yeah, there's a bill in Illinois, and I'm reading because it's probably going to start in other states. It's a bill in Illinois that it was signed into law that allowed illegals to become police officers. It was signed into law with the goal of purging blacks. They're trying to, that's the two issues that we're fighting. And that's it.
Yep. So they've signed to law now to allow certain groups of people to become law enforcement officers. You know it's going to get bad.
That's law.
Because look, there was that Chinese guy who shot the black guy. In his car, he shot him in the car with his baby in the back and his wife sitting next to him. Shot him twice. And then he's standing there holding the gun and crying. I know what I want to do with that gun with you. You had no reason to shoot him. You took the gun out. Why did you leave the gun in your holster? You're talking to the man, but you pull a gun on him. Why? I don't understand. That's why I think. Listen to what Europe says about America. It is the most armed for war country in the world. That's the article, by the way. America, the most armed for war country in the world. And that's why the journalists abroad say that America is a tinderbox, waiting for the right spark. And people will be shooting each other like next door shooting next door, and all that type of garbage. Because everybody's armed to the teeth. America, and it has more guns per capita than what it has in the rest of Europe. It's mind-blowing. Europe is way bigger, and little old America has more guns per capita. It shows you the state of mind that this God-forsaken place is in. We're going to get into the teaching today. We give all praises to the Most High God, for He is good, and He has been righteous to bring us at another time to sit at His table and to bask and to feed from His word. Come on. The title of this particular teaching is The History of the World. Come on. The History of the World. And as a subtitle, Babylonian Captivity of Israel. Again, it is the history of the world, main title, because I'm going to cover maybe more than one subject matter in the history of the world. But the subtitle, which is the title of this particular teaching, is the Babylonian Captivity of Israel. Come on? All right. Eternal Father, we thank you in the precious name of Yahushua, your Son. Lead us now with your truth in Yahushua's name, Selah. All right. Let's go, if you please, to the book of Genesis, chapter 10. Back to Genesis. We've been eating up the book of Genesis. Where is Sean? You good?
Yes.
Oh. You left him up behind, Doctor? All right. Okay, let's go. So, Genesis chapter 10, we're going to begin reading at verse 6. Let's read.
Genesis chapter 10, 6. And the sons of Ham, Cush.
Now, slow that down. I need you also, if you haven't got one, get one now. I need you to have a Zondervan Bible dictionary on hand. I need you to have one now. A Zondervan Bible dictionary.
Right here, sir.
Good. So, let's read again.
Genesis 6:12.
Genesis 10:6.
Genesis chapter 10, verse 6.
I warned you, right?
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
And the sons of Ham, Cush, and Mizraim, and Put, and Canaan.
Now, let's understand these groups here. Let's see what the Zondervan says concerning Ham. Let's go.
Come. Ham, the youngest son of Noah.
So Ham is the youngest son of Noah, right?
Right.
All right, hold your peace. Who is the oldest son of Noah? Don't shout it out. No shouting out. I want you to learn. Who, let me see. Someone, anyone got their hands up? All right. Yes, sir. Alfonso. Shem. All right, so you want to say Shem. Anybody else? Go ahead, Yasharala. Who? Japhet, okay. Johanna?
Oh, it's Japhet.
Oh, I didn't ask you for your confirmation.
Japhet.
What am I going to do with you, right? All right. Yes, ma'am. Huh? Okay, never mind. Is that his name?
I was gonna say Shem, but never mind.
His name is never mind?
No, I was gonna say Shem, but I took it back.
You took it back. His name is took it back.
No. Shem.
All right, Shem. Okay. All right. There you are. Because I need you to stretch your mind. That's all I want to do. I want to stretch your mind. Come on. All right. So, first and foremost, Ham is the youngest son of 3 sons of Noah, right? Now watch this. He's the youngest son. The eldest son is Japhet, right? Now, Alfonso, you said that it was Shem. Well, the reasons why you said that is because Shem is always referred to because he is the one that the promise was passed on to in terms of the bloodline. And so most times people will always refer to Shem because he is the one that has been passed on. So the bloodline in terms of its official head went from Noah to his son Shem. It didn't go to Japhet and definitely did not go to Ham, right? Okay. So I don't want you to think necessarily you're wrong, but in terms of the genealogy, it is Japhet, then it is Shem, then it is Ham, because Ham is the youngest. All right? But in terms of the promise of the bloodline, it is Shem. So it goes from Noah to Shem. Come on? Now, when we read in the Thunderman Dictionary, it says what? Read it again, sir.
Come, Ham, perhaps hot, the youngest son of Noah, born probably about 96 years before the flood.
See, 96 years before the flood. So he was alive before the flood because he was part of them that was used to build the ark. Stay with me now. So when we go back and we read Genesis chapter 10 and verse 6, watch what it says.
Come. And the sons of Ham.
Remember, we're dealing with history today. We're focusing on history. Read.
And the sons of Ham, Cush and Mizraim, and Put and Canaan.
Now, let's see who these individuals are. Mizraim, as we know, is Egypt. That's Egypt. That's the original name. The name Egypt is a name given to them by the Greeks. And all the name Egypt means is what? By a show of hands. Go ahead, Johanna.
Bondage.
Bondage. The word Egypt simply means bondage. So you have a people who are called bondage and live by that name and big the name up. I am bondage. It makes me laugh when you have Jamaicans saying, well, I'm Jamaican. Your wood and your water. That's what Jamaican means. Jamaican. It means wood and water. Now, when we look back here and we see the name of these individuals, in terms of where they're from, the scripture speaks to us now as we read on. I want you to read on where that verse 8. Go ahead.
Come. And the sons of Cush, Seba and Havilah and Sabta and Raamah and Sabteka. And the sons of Raamah, Sheba and Dedan. Verse 8. And Cush begat Nimrod. He began to be a mighty one in the earth.
In the earth. So here is the first ruler. He's the first ruler, Nimrod. He's the first man that took a position over all men, that men worshipped him. Now, is that something? He became like a god. He was insistent that all men worship him and give praise to him. And he was a big man. And the nation that came through his bloodline, they were all big. Today people use the term giants, but that's really a fairy tale statement that's in fairy tale books. But these were men that were called large men of stature. You see? And so, when we continue now with this, it says, read.
Verse 10. And the beginning of his kingdom was Babel.
The beginning of his kingdom was Babel. Go on.
And Erech, and Akkad, and Calneh, in the land of Shinar.
Of Shinar. Now, these are what's today, Shinar is the modern day term for Iraq. Right? So, this is giving you a geographical understanding of where all this was taking place. Khan? And so, we see that it says, the beginning of his kingdom, meaning he didn't have one kingdom. He had many kingdoms. And he had men that would worship him. That's why in verse 9 it said, and he was mighty hunter. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord. Wherefore it is said, even as Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord. Because what did he do? He put himself as a god. Now this is, I don't know why in Christianity they don't teach it this way, but he made himself as a god. And that's why he made all men to bow and worship him. All men feared him. Because he became the first stumbling block. That instead of men worshiping the Most High God, he became a living God on earth that they looked to him, and what were they doing? They were following him, obeying him like he was a god. And he hunted men down and made them worship him. Otherwise, he would take their lives. Remember, it's an easy persuasion. If someone can take your life and versus worship, they were quick to submit to that. Are you with me so far? Run to Micah chapter 7. Let's put some facts behind some of all of this. Micah chapter 7. So drop whatever scriptures you have. Go to Micah chapter 7. And in Micah chapter 7, let me know when you're there. All right, let's go. Let's begin reading Micah chapter 7 and verse 2. Let's begin reading it. It's next to Nahum and it's next to Joel, so it's in between. Mm-hmm. Have you got it, sir?
Got it, sir. Micah chapter 7.
Verse 2, let's
And
go.
verse 2. The good man is perished out of the earth,
Go on.
and there is none upright among men.
See that? Read it again.
The good man is perished out of the earth, and there is none upright among men.
Because Nimrod prevented men from worshiping the Most High God. He prevented them. He wanted all of the praise to come to him. He soon quickly learned that I can control this situation. It says the good man is perished out of the earth, and there is none upright among men. They all lie in what?
Wait for blood.
For what?
Wait for blood.
For blood. Because that's what Nimrod did. He spilled blood, because blood would make them become fearful. Read.
They hunt every man his brother with a net.
With a net. You see that? That's what you've got right there. On every man with a net. That's what Nimrod do. That's why when you go back to Genesis chapter 10 and verse 9, it says he was a mighty hunter before God. You see that? Wherefore it is said, even as Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord. He hunted men down. Making sense to you now? And so when we go even further now, go back to Genesis chapter 10. Let's read verse 8 again. Make sure it's in your mind. Go on.
Come. Genesis 10 and 8. And Cush begat Nimrod.
Cush did what?
He begat Nimrod.
He begot Nimrod. Go on.
He began to be a mighty one in the earth.
In the earth. He knew how to control men's mind. And he knew that fear was a weapon he could use for himself. All right? Go to 2nd Ezra chapter 5. The book of 2nd Ezra, found in your Apocrypha. 2nd Ezra chapter 5.
Come.
2nd Ezra chapter 5. Let's begin reading, if you please, at verse 42.
2nd Ezra chapter 5, verse 42. And he said unto me, I will liken my judgment unto a ring.
Now, what you're seeing here explains why we as Israel keep going through the same mess every single day, week, month, years, century. You must ask, why is it that we keep going through this? All the other nations seem to be chilling and cooling and everything seems to be okay. But we keep going through it. It's because our judgment that he has on us has no end. And let me tell you, Yesharala, it was good for me a moment ago. If you mess with that thing, I'm going to be very disappointed with you. As I said before, let me say it now, and I'm going to be very straight. I have to have it at a certain point, right? I don't want to say it no more. I say it every single week. I don't want to say it no more. Now, make me sound belligerent, but you don't understand what I go through. So let's go. So it says, and he said unto me, I will what?
Liken my judgment unto a ring.
Why does it say like unto a ring? Why does it say I'm likening my judgment like unto a ring? Who said that? All right. Next, you had the right answer, but I'd like to see your hand up next time. All right. So it says, let's read it again.
And he said,
and by the way, take in mind what our brother said. Go on.
And he said unto me, I will liken my judgment unto a ring.
Unto a ring. And he was right. Why? Because where did it start? Where does it end? So it means we Israel, we black people, we're always going through the same mess. Every week, every month, every year, police nonsense, government nonsense, you name it, we're going through it. Because it's a judgment on us. You see? And he said unto me, I will liken my judgment as a ring. Read.
Like as there is no slackness.
No slackness. Read.
Of the last.
Of the last. Go on.
Even so, there is no swiftness of the first.
There's no swiftness of the first. It keeps going. It's a steady cycle that keeps going. We go through every single time. That's what, listen, when we hear that the priest has shot one of our brothers or strangled one of our sisters, it's no surprise to us. You've done it before. You hung them in jail. You beat them up and then you take the cameras away. We know what you're doing, Esau. But judgment is coming for you. You mess with God's people. Listen, Esau, when you see those black faces, you are looking into the face of the Almighty God. Because that's what he looks like. And so when we read this now, it says, read.
And he answered and said unto me, I will liken my judgment unto a ring.
Go on.
Like as there is no slackness of the last.
Read.
Even so, there is no swiftness of the first.
Read.
So I answered and said, Couldst thou not make those that have been made and be now and that are for to come at once?
You've got to slow it down when you're trying to get the comprehension. But continue, please.
At once, that thou mightest show thy judgment the sooner.
The sooner. You see that? And so what we find here is that this is how the Most High God shows his judgment to Israel by constantly having us go over the same thing week in and week out. Go to Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 14. Still stay in the Apocrypha. Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 14. And we're going to read, if you please, verse 15.
Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 14, verse 15.
Now, why is that so important? Because remember, it is Nimrod where Catholicism comes from. Now, I'm sure those folks all over the world who are worshiping Roman Catholicism don't realize that their God is Nimrod, a giant black man. They don't realize it. I think if they did, they'd start saying, oops. Okay. I didn't hear myself before like that. Okay, all right. So that's all right. And so this is why this particular book here, The Two Babylons, it speaks primarily about Nimrod and how he set his family up to be what's known as the unholy Trinity. The unholy Trinity. Why? Because it was Nimrod who is the God, followed by his wife, right? And there's a whole lot of mess with her because it's said that she had sex with her own son, but there's a whole lot of mess with her. So that follows with that. Then his son who was killed when he was a young boy by a wild boar. And that's why every Easter and certain times of the year, guess what? People celebrate and cook swine. Because now people turn around, well, where did we get that from? You got it from Nimrod. So when you are cutting that swine and eating the crackling of that flesh, you are eating in defiance of the fact that this creature killed our boy God who was Nimrod's son. Are you seeing that now? Mm-hmm. So that's where it comes from. Pastor, buy the book. Because sometimes people tell me, say, well, where you get that from? Please. Here it tells us now, in the book of the Wisdom of Solomon, and it says in verse 15,
for a father afflicted with untimely mourning,
go on,
when he hath made an image of his child, soon taken away.
Soon taken away. Now, normally when we read this text, we read it in connection with Pope Gregory VI, who is the father. He was a pope, and he was the father of some say Caesar Borgia, but it's pronounced Cesare Borgia. However, he is the one that modeled in as Christ. So every face that you see that looks like Christ, it really is a depiction of Caesar Borgia, Pope Gregory VI, using his son to keep the image continually. So when we were in our dumb and stupid state, we had a white man's picture up on the wall in our living room of this ugly looking long-faced man with blonde horsehair and his beard and blue eyes, and we would look at that, and the eyes look at it would follow you all over the silly room. And then you'd be there with his fingers with using these symbols. Those symbols, by the way, are curse. And you who are still watching, and you still have Jesus on your wall, you have a curse in your house looking at you. And so when we read this now, it said an untimely death of the father, because it said the morning when he hath made an image of his child, soon taken away, now honored him as a god, which was then a dead man, delivered to those that were under him.
Ceremonies and sacrifices.
Go on.
Thus, in process of time, an ungodly custom.
And what custom?
An ungodly custom.
Go on.
Grown strong.
Grew strong. Go on.
Was kept as a law.
Kept as what?
As a law.
It became a law. Read.
And graven images were worshipped by the commandments of kings.
By the commandments of kings. Now, imagine this. Now, no one needs to be persuaded. Everybody in the world now. See, you go to Africa. Africa, the land where Yahushua comes from. There, the idea of a black Jesus has been completely brainwashed and whitewashed into a so-called white man. You go to Mexico, our Mexican brothers worship white Jesus like he is, and they see the picture. If it falls off, they'll run to pick it up, get it off the floor. See? Because now you don't need to coax them, you don't need to prod them. It's become a part of everyday life. And now when you go and you say to them, no, he doesn't look like that. And remember, our forefathers fought not to follow that image. And they beat it, and they hung us, and they burnt us, and they threatened our children, and then our children, through fear, after they saw their parents being destroyed, went into it, many of them. And then we had Jews, our people, who pretended to follow Catholicism and went into Catholicism, but only did it just as an outward practice, but inwardly they still believe in the Most High God. There are Jews who are like that, and I don't want to get into that side of things, if you follow what I'm saying. Does that make sense to you so far? And so remember, every time now you see people cutting that swine, that's a sacrifice. that they're cutting and eating. Remember, before we went online, we spoke about the fact that certain products that they're selling in the supermarket is a sacrifice that we eat and we don't even know. And so when we look at this, read on, if you please, to verse 16 on down.
Come. Wisdom of Solomon 14:16. Thus, in process of time,
Please pay attention.
an ungodly custom, grown strong, was kept as a law,
Read.
and graven images were worshipped by the commandments of kings,
Go on.
whom men could not honor in presence because they dwelt far off.
Read.
They took the counterfeit of his visage.
They did what?
They took the counterfeit of his visage
Go on.
from far
From far. Go on.
and made an express image
So they made their own likenesses wherever they were in the world. Go on.
of a king whom they honored,
Go on.
to the end that by this, their forwardness, they might flatter him
Go on.
that was absent as if he were present.
Go on.
Also, the singular diligence of the artificer did help to set forward the ignorant to more superstition.
More superstition. See that? This is where all this is coming from. Let's go back, if you please, to Genesis chapter 10. Let's read verse 9 on down. Genesis chapter 10 and verse 9. Let's go.
Genesis 10, verse 9. He was a mighty hunter.
He was what?
He was a mighty hunter
He was a mighty hunter.
before the Lord.
Before who?
Before the Lord.
Before the Lord. This is just terrible, isn't it? When we begin to see this is the way it is. Go on, read on.
Wherefore it is said, even as Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord.
Read.
And the beginning of his kingdom was Babel and Erech and Akkad and Calneh in the land of Shinar.
Because Babylon basically is Iraq as we see it today. Continue to read.
Out of that land went forth Asher.
And that's why when you read in the scriptures, it speaks about Asher and it speaks about Nineveh. These were great cities within Babylon. Nineveh, we're about to read it. It took 3 days to journey through Nineveh. That's how big that city was. From one end to get out the other, it took 3 days to get out. It was not an easy city to get out of because it was just so huge. But read, sir.
Out of that land went forth Asher and builded Nineveh and the city Rehoboth and Caleb, and Rezin between Nineveh and Caleb. The same is a great city.
Is what?
Is a great city.
The same is a great city. Go to Genesis 11 and 1.
Genesis 11:1. And the whole earth was of one language.
And the whole earth was what?
Of one language.
Because this is now after the flood, and now they are about to come together with one mind. And when they have one mind, it means the word one mind means agreement. That's why when you hear the scriptures, as in the New Testament, it says, Yahushua said, I and my Father, we are one. It means we're in agreement. When you hear a husband and wife say that we are one, it means the husband and wife, they are in agreement. That word one always strikes the note for us to understand agreement. Con? All right. So let's read on. Read.
And it came to pass, as they journeyed from the east.
Genesis chapter 11 and 1. Read it again, please.
From the top, yes, sir. And the whole earth was of one language and of one speech.
All right. Now, why is that so important? Because speech is what let us know who you are. Our speech is an identifier. What part of America you're from is identified by your speech. How you pronounce syllables and words and sentences, and how they run and how they rhyme is based upon your speech. We see that when we go, run with me please, to the book of Matthew chapter 27. Still keep Genesis chapter 11. We're coming back there. Matthew chapter 27. 27 and verse 45. Listen carefully now.
Matthew 27, verse 45. Now, from the sixth hour, there was darkness over all the land unto the ninth hour.
Unto the ninth hour. Go on.
And about the ninth hour, Jesus cried with a loud voice.
Yahushua cried out with a loud voice,
saying, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. That is to say, my God, my God, my God, why hast thou forsaken me?
Listen.
Some of them that stood there when they heard that said,
when they heard his speech, when they heard what it sounded like, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani, they now took that to mean something else. Read.
Some of them that stood there when they heard that said, this man calleth for Elias.
See, because they didn't understand his tongue. And then it says, read.
And straightway one of them ran and took a sponge and filled it with vinegar and put it on a reed and gave him to drink.
So here you're noticing that he gave a speech and they could not recognize the actual linguisticness that he was trying to bring across. He spoke Hebrew, but he spoke a more excellent Hebrew than those that were around at the time. Because you'll find that even here in America, you have someone who speaks with an American accent, but if you went into the deep South and you hear the way they speak, they make some kind of statement and you wonder, what the heck did he just say? Because even though we know there's an American accent, I detect it, but the linguisticness of his words is unraveled. It's not clear. And that's what this whole verse is trying to convey to us. In case you have a problem with that, go to Matthew chapter 26. Matthew 26 and begin reading at verse 69, sir.
Matthew 26, 69. Now Peter sat without in the palace.
So Peter sat outside the palace of where the Inquisition was being taken place. Read.
And a damsel came unto him, saying, thou also was with Yahushua of Galilee.
So, and why did she say that? Because he's there, and as he's there, and everyone's talking, he's talking too. But his speech betrays him. And she says, read it.
Thou,
go on.
Thou also was with Yahushua of Galilee.
Yeah, well, you sound like him. Read.
But he denied before them all, saying, I know not what thou sayest.
Go on.
And when he was gone out into the porch.
So he ran off now because that's too close for comfort. But go on.
Another maid saw him and said unto them that were there, this fellow was also with Yahushua of Nazareth.
So again, as he's talking and making his way, someone else hears him and says, yeah, you were with him. You look like the fellow that was with him, and you sound like them that were with him. Read.
And again he denied with an oath, I do not know the man.
Read.
And after a while came unto him they that stood by, and said to Peter, surely thou also art one of them.
Go on.
For thy speech.
For thy what?
For thy speech.
Go on.
Betrayeth thee.
Betrays thee. You begin to sound like the person that has spent time teaching you, because you're picking up the linguistic terms that comes from that person who is leading. All over the world it is so, regardless of whatever it is. That's why I knew of a particular Japanese individual once upon a time, and And there are certain words that he would use. He would put great authority into those words. And guess what? All of his students did exactly the same thing because they were learning from him. Therefore, the linguisticness that he was portraying to them, they picked it up. And so everywhere those students went, they would say, "You are part of Toro Tamazawa's school, right?" And they'd say, "Yes." How did you know? Because only he puts emphasis on certain things the way that you do. Your speech will betray you if you sit under good leadership that teaches strongly. That's what the book says. And read the latter clause again, sir.
Surely thou also art one of them, for thy speech betrayeth thee.
Thy speech does what?
Betrayeth thee.
Let's go back to Genesis chapter 10 and 1. Let's quickly go back there just for a quick minute. Genesis chapter 10 and 1, real quick.
Come on. Genesis 10 and 1. Now, these are the generations of the sons of Noah.
These are now the generations. Because these, in other words, this is where all the genealogy comes from. And this genealogy comes from Noah. Read.
Sons of Noah. Shem, Ham, and Japheth.
Shem who?
Ham and Japheth.
Go on.
And unto them were sons born after the flood.
Go on.
The sons of Japhet.
Now, Japhet, he is the second group of people who ruled. The first group of people who ruled was Ham. But continue, read.
The sons of Japhet, Gomer,
and
Magog.
And Magog. Go on. No, Gomer and Magog, they are of the northwestern section, which is Russia. All right? Go on.
And Madai and Yavan.
Madai, let's see. Just quick moment. Let me give you a reference because I want you to be able to check this out in your own time. Go to 1 Maccabees chapter 1 and 1. Real quick. 1 Maccabees chapter 1 and 1. 1 Maccabees chapter 1 and 1.
1 Maccabees 1 and 1.
Read.
And it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Checham, had smitten Darius, king of the Persians and Medes, that he reigned in his stead the first over Greece.
Okay, drop that quickly because of time. Run back. And so we read, and it says Magog and Madai, and go on, and Yavan or Javan. We're back in Genesis, sir. So we finish here.
Yeah.
We're going back to Genesis.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Yes, sir. In chapter 2 and 10, verse 2. The sons of Japheth, Gomer and Magog and Madai and Yavan.
Now, Yavan, or as it's written here, Javan, that's the Greeks. All right? Because remember, the Greeks, the original Greeks, everybody was black in the beginning. Everybody. The Greeks were black. And I know they don't teach you that in school because they want you to believe that everybody was white. No, they weren't. White is a new thing.
That's right.
That's new. Blackness is a thing that's from the beginning because they come from the dirt, which is black. And you read that in the book of Genesis. So it says, read, sir.
The sons of Japheth, Gomer and Magog and Madai and Javan and Tubal and Meshech and Tiras.
Go on.
And the sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz.
See, the Ashkenazis were around from the beginning. Ashkenazi Jews. They weren't called Jews then. They were just plain Ashkenazi. But go on.
And Rephath and Togarmah. And the sons of Javan, Elisha and Tarshish.
And Tarshish, that is where Spain, that hails us what we call today Spain. Right? Because that's a term that comes from the Moors. Right? That Spanish word Spain there has Hebrew connotations because it was Hebrews who named it so. And then when we go on, read.
Tarshish Kittim and Dodanim.
Kittim and Dodanim, that's ancient Rome. These are the people that would eventually become Rome. All right? Because these people, in that particular period, they were dark-skinned people. All right, read on.
By these were the isles of the Gentiles.
Now you see the word Gentile for the first time in the book of Genesis, chapter 10 and verse 5. And remember, we know that the book of Genesis, the book itself, is the book of first mentions. So when something is mentioned there, it's normally where it's first mentioned because that's the instructions given by the Most High to Moses for him to write, because he wrote the first 5 books of the scriptures. Right? And so here we see by the isles of the Gentile, which we read later on in the New Testament. That's how we know that these things are connected. Because remember, we're really getting to the point where I'm trying to show you that the orders and the commandments of God was given unto us way back in the beginning by Moses, warning us that if you put a foot wrong, you're going to suffer for it. And Moses kept on saying, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, you should do this, or you should do that. But did we listen? Nah. Because we're just stiff-necked and hard of hearing. But watch what the writer says. Go on.
By these were the isles of the Gentiles divided in their lands, everyone after his tongue.
After what?
After his tongue.
After his tongue. Go on.
After their families.
After their families. Go on.
In their nations.
In their nations. And why is this so important? Because later on, these individuals had a language of their own. Because in the beginning, everybody spoke Hebrew. It was the language that the Most High God spoke, and therefore all the nations of the earth spoke Hebrew. That's why everyone can have Hebrew, but not everyone can be Israelite. That's why we don't say it's Hebrew. The focus is not on Hebrew. The focus is on Israelite. All right? And to show you that we connect with the original tongue, we say Hebrew Israelite. Making sense, everyone? Good. So let's keep going. Go on.
And Cush begat Nimrod. He began...
What verse are you reading, sir?
Oh, I skipped one.
What verse are you reading, sir?
I went back to verse 8.
All right, I want you to read verse 7.
Verse 7. And the sons of Cush, and Sapta, and Ra'amah, and Saptekah, and the sons of Ramah, Sheba, and Dedan.
And Dedan. Hold that. Run now to the Wisdom of Solomon. Chapter 10. Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 10. Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 10. I want you to begin reading at verse 4.
Come. Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 10, verse 4.
Listen carefully now.
For whose cause the earth being drowned with the flood.
So the earth originally was drowned by the flood. Go on.
Wisdom again preserved it.
Wisdom preserved it. That's why you'll read in some books, you'll read the word wisdom, or they will take the word wisdom out and you'll see the word she or her, or she usually. The she is wisdom. Why? Because men are meant to pursue wisdom like they do a woman. Because wisdom is the principal thing. In all thy getting, get understanding, right? So, watch what it says.
Wisdom again preserved it and directed the course of the righteous in a piece of...
So I can read verse 4 again.
Kind. Wisdom of Solomon 10 and 4. For whose cause the earth being drowned with the flood.
Read.
Wisdom again preserved it.
Go on.
And directed the course of the righteous.
And did what?
Directed the course of the righteous.